Hi guys and welcome to another track review, and today we're going to be talking about Fake My Own Death, the new track from Sum-41. I've been a fan of pretty much all of Sum-41's albums so far, except for maybe Underclass Hero. I'm a huge fan of the early pop-punk sound that they have on their first two albums, but for me, when the band really started to get interesting and find themselves were with the albums Chuck and Screaming Bloody Murder, which blended elements of alternative metal with melodic hardcore. They were much heavier, louder, more aggressive albums, and I think in many ways that's where the band were at their best. And with 13 Voices, that upcoming album, they've kind of went on and carried on with that sound, and Fake My Own Death perfectly sounds like the sort of song that could have been on those previous two albums. This album was funded through Pledge Music. In fact, I actually bought the album over a year ago, and yeah, it was supposed to come out in March, but it still hasn't come out. It doesn't come out to October. It's been kind of complicated. We've had to wait a long time, but at least I'm glad now that they're actually releasing a single, and that the first single on the album is actually good and not terrible. One of the things that got me really excited about this album is the fact that Brown Sound, the original guitarist, is back now, meaning that Sum-41 actually have 3 guitarists, and I was hoping that that would show on this track, but it doesn't really. There's a really solid riff that plays all throughout the track, but that's really all there is. There isn't any grand solos or anything. I don't know, it just doesn't sound like there's 3 guitars. It really does sound like 2. And apart from the main riff, there's nothing really guitar-wise that blows me away. And yeah, the lyrical content is a bit lacking as well, but apart from that, this track is definitely really solid. It's a lot of fun, incredibly loud, and I wouldn't say it's super heavy, but it reminds me a lot of the heavier side to Chuck. In fact, this track actually does sound very much like something that could have come off of Chuck. The chorus especially reminds me a lot of tracks like We're All to Blame from that album. And Derek's voice on this track definitely sounds really good. I was expecting it to sound a little bit different, seeing as, you know, he almost died from the amount of alcohol he drank, and watching the live performances from last year when the band got back together, yeah, they weren't great, so I was a little bit worried how he would sound vocally, but he kills it on this track. He definitely goes back to sounding like how he used to. He's got the raspy, aggressive sound that he had on all their previous albums, except for maybe Screaming Bloody Murder. That did seem a lot cleaner at times, especially on the title track. So it's definitely good to see his vocals haven't been affected at all. And they've got a new drummer now since their old drummer Steve-O left. This is actually the first album since Steve-O left, and the new drummer is fantastic as well. He just blows me away on this track. He does a stellar job. As well as the instrumentation and production on this track is really good. Derek Whibley, of course, produces the album once again. He's produced all the band's albums since Underclass Hero, and he does an amazing job with this track. I don't really think there's loads I can say about this track, although I was kind of hoping for something that would blow me away. This track did kind of seem exactly what I was expecting, but that doesn't mean it's bad or anything. I think it's just I've waited so long for the album now that I did kind of get a little bit impatient, and I kind of wanted something to come along and be amazing and completely blow me away, and I got a really good track, but nothing special or super great or anything. But that being said, I did really like this track. I'm looking forward to the album, and yeah, this is definitely a really solid track from the band, and definitely a pretty good comeback track. Have you heard Fake My Own Death? If so, what's your opinion on it? Leave it down in the comment section below. I want to thank everyone for watching my California review. It got a lot more views than I was expecting. A lot of dislikes though. I kind of understand why. I don't think that video is great, to be honest, in hindsight. I do think I had a lot of points that I didn't really develop very well, and it was very much my first opinion, so nothing was going to be super fleshed out or anything. But I'm going to be working on the full album review in a couple of weeks. I've listened to the album a few times now. My opinion is quite different actually from how I thought originally. I don't love it, but we'll talk about that later. Also, what I did promise that I was going to do another track review, which didn't end up happening. I've decided I'm going to wait until the EP based around that track comes out in August and do a review of that. Also, I've got a few albums that I missed that I'm going to be doing reviews of. They're going to be done in my albums I missed segment. I did one of back in January and haven't done since, so I'm going to be talking about all the albums I've missed that I've listened to and never given a review since February. So stay tuned for that. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.